Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. This show is sponsored by our members who made donations. We'd like to give them a very big thank you. We have to cover the monthly costs of the radio station's software, bandwidth, phone lines and phone calls to be able to continue with the radio show. And thank you for listening. I'd like to introduce my guest today, who's Shauna from Canada. And Shauna uses LDN for endometriosis and infertility. Thank you for joining us today, Shauna.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, in your words, how about telling us your story?
So I first heard about LDN from my mom, who has been taking it for a few different reasons, fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and pain and things like that. And she had kind of read up about it and through the LDN Research Trust. And she kept on trying to push me towards taking it to see if it could help with our infertility problems. And I kind of pushed back against her because the drug is just not well researched. There's just not a lot of studies that have been done. So, and I asked my fertility specialist and I asked my GP, and they were firmly against it. So I kind of continued to say no to my mom over a year or so, and then we kind of hit a roadblock for fertility treatments. I had tried 4 other types of fertility drugs and treatments over the last 3 years, and so nothing was working. And we couldn't afford IVF, we couldn't afford IUI. There was just no other options. So I went again to my fertility specialist and I begged him to let me try LDN, just, to see if maybe it could just alleviate some of my endometriosis and then maybe potentially help with getting pregnant. And he firmly said no again. So then I went to my GP and took quite a bit of arm twisting, it felt like, to consider it. And, I came at it at the point of helping with my endometriosis. I didn't really touch too much on it helping me to get pregnant, but I was like, I said, do you believe that LDN helps with inflammatory diseases? And he said, yes. And I said, well, endometriosis and PCOS, which I also have PCOS. I said, well, those diseases are inflammatory. So don't you think that this drug would potentially help me feel better? And he kind of grumbled, and then he's like, okay, fine, we can try it. He said, but I'm putting this all on you, and you're taking responsibility for anything that happens on this drug. So I said, okay, that's fine. And he wanted to prescribe me 4.5 milligrams at first. And I tried to tell him that, the pharmacy I go to is a compounding pharmacy. They can make lower doses. And he said, no, this is as low as I'll go. And so then I go to the pharmacist, and she said, well, no, we can make it like as low as you want. And so then call the doctor again and say, fine, I'll go down to 2.5. I'm like, no, we need to go down lower. We need to start like really low. But he ended up not going down any further than 2.5. But I had help from my mom to help split the 2.5 to even lower. So I ended up starting at 0.5 and then working my way up to 5 milligrams. The first thing I noticed on the drug was that my immune system became like 100% better. I was getting colds like every other week before starting the drug, and I haven't had one single cold since starting it in November. So,
wow.
And then the only side effect I felt was that when I increased my dose, I got migraines for a couple of days, and I got some nausea. But I was already on other fertility drugs, so those were causing nausea too. So really, I have no idea if it was the LDN or not. But so then when I got to 5 milligrams, I found that I wasn't quite adjusting to the dosage, and I was feeling quite nauseous. And so after I ovulated in December, I went down to 2.5 milligrams, and I stayed at 2.5. And then a few weeks after Christmas, I found out I was pregnant. So I had only been on the drug.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so, thank you. So I'm 6 weeks pregnant. So, but it was the combination of the fertility drug the letrozole, which is a drug that stimulates ovulation, because that's kind of a separate problem from endometriosis that I have, is that I don't ovulate naturally. And I'm not sure if maybe if I stayed on LDN for longer without the letrozole, maybe it would potentially help me ovulate naturally on my own. I don't know. But for me, I needed the letrozole to help me ovulate, and I needed the LDN to decrease the inflammation and calm my immune system, because I think those were the two things that were getting in the way of the letrozole actually working and for pregnancy to actually stick, because I had been on the letrozole for 9 months and the ovulation was happening, but there was just no pregnancy. So, so, and then I did feel that there was a decrease in inflammation in my pelvic area. And I was able to do activities that used to completely wipe me out physically, where I would come home and just have to go lay down because I would be just exhausted and in so much pain. I'm a photographer, so sometimes my newborn photo sessions are 3 or 4 hours long, and those sessions typically I come home and I'm a wreck physically. But when I was on the LDN, I'm still on the LDN, but when I started it, I found that I could do newborn sessions and not come home completely in pain, which was really nice.
Wow, that's something. So, are you still taking the LDN?
Yes, I'm still taking 2.5 milligrams, and I'll stay on it until the end of my pregnancy, and then probably continue on it afterwards. It's the only drug that I've been able to find so far that actually successfully alleviates some of the endometriosis symptoms without having a crazy list of side effects, which is really wonderful.
Yes. I mean, Dr. Phil Boyle uses LDN in his infertility clinic, and you can see on our Vimeo channel some of the videos we have of him where he uses it to help ladies get pregnant, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, during breastfeeding. And I interviewed him the other day, and he was saying how the babies are a good weight, they are less likely to need antibiotics. On follow-ups, the mums say they're very happy, contented babies. I mean, it just sounds too good to be true. My mum would sorry, carry on.
When I'm interested, there was an article I had read about LDN, about they're looking into whether or not LDN can potentially help stop endometriosis happening when you have, like, let's say you're pregnant with a girl, and because there's speculation about endometriosis and how it develops, right? Like, does it happen when your baby is growing in utero and you just always have it? You know, like for some people endometriosis doesn't come out of the woodwork until like their 40s or for me, it got way worse after I became sexually active. There's lots of different theories about endometriosis and where does it begin. And so I'm hoping that this pregnancy is a girl. And it would be wonderful if I stay on the LDN during pregnancy, if there's a potential of me not passing on endometriosis. I don't know if, there's just not very much good understanding about endometriosis and whether it's genetic or not. And, why does it start? How does it start? And so anyway, I mean, that's all speculation. It's all theory, but it's just kind of would be nice if I could spare my future baby girls if they could just not have to deal with this disease, because there's no cure for it, right? And there's not very many well-known treatments for them. So
exactly. So with your polycystic ovaries, did you find ovulation painful?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I don't. My cycles naturally are 50 days apart. So it's like my body just tries and tries and tries to ovulate, and then it just finally gives up. And then, I don't. I sporadically ovulate naturally, and so the months that I do ovulate, those ones are really, really painful. But then even the months that I don't ovulate, it's very painful because I think my body's just trying its hardest to ovulate, and then it just doesn't happen. So, but I mean, I've been on fertility drugs for the last few years, so I haven't had those super long cycles as often because the drugs have been kind of regulating my cycles.
Well, it's just amazing, that you got pregnant so quickly. I mean, you must have been surprised.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was. The thing is, I took the pregnancy test because I some months I just like to get it over with, so that I can kind of process that I'm not pregnant that month and just kind of, move on.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking the pregnancy test at day 30, and thinking, it's just going to be negative, and then, I'm just going to be waiting for my period to start, and then I can just, be depressed and eat some ice cream and then move on, right?
Yes.
But anyway, it came out positive, and I just started freaking out and hyperventilating, and the first person I called was my midwife. Just because the midwives fill up very fast here, who's trying to get under their care is pretty hard. So I was the first person I called, and she's like, okay, just calm down. I don't know if this is real. Like, keep on rechecking the pregnancy test to make sure it's actually correct.
How many times did you take it?
I ended up taking 2 pregnancy tests, and then I went to the doctor the next day and I ordered a blood work to check. And then they've been checking me every few days to make sure that my HCG level is going up, and it's more than doubling. So that's really good.
Well, it's fantastic.
Yeah. But I mean, I was blessed with I had a son. He's 3.5. He'll be 4 in April. And when I was trying to conceive him, it took a year and 8 months of trying to get pregnant with him. And I felt like I had endometriosis back then, but it hadn't been diagnosed yet. Doctors were still kind of just telling me I was crazy. I ended up going on a hormone cream, a bioidentical hormone cream from my naturopath. And I got pregnant within 2 cycles with that. And I tried those creams again 2 years ago, trying to get pregnant for this time round, and it didn't work the same way. So my problems, they changed after I had my son. My endometriosis, I think, got worse after pregnancy. I had about 10 months postpartum that I think my symptoms were pretty well not there. and my cycles were regular, which has never happened in my entire life. And then once I hit 10 months postpartum, things just went crazy again. I think my uterus, it settled back into a very tilted position towards my sacrum. And then all the endometriosis came back like way worse. And my cycles went back to 50, 55 days apart. It was just, became a lot worse. So I think I definitely needed the LDN this time to calm all that inflammation down that just went crazy.
So what did your mum have to say?
When I called my mom to tell her that I was pregnant, she was over the moon, and I think she was trying to hold back the "I told you
yes,
so."
That's what I thought. Yeah. That's why I asked that question. Yeah. Why didn't you do it sooner?
I know. Well, and the thing is, I could tell over the phone. She's holding it back. She wants to tell me, you could have gotten pregnant like way sooner, if you had taken this drug way sooner. But, yeah.
Well.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Thankfully, my mom has learned a lot of grace. She has 7 children, so she's used to us kids pushing against her, and you think by now for how many times that she's been right and we've been wrong, we would just trust her, but
Well, you'll learn soon enough what that's all about.
Right, yeah, it's a circle of life, right?
Exactly. Well, we wish you every success, and maybe you can come back and tell us how the pregnancy went and how the baby's doing and everything afterwards. Yeah. So, and is your little boy looking forward to having a baby brother or sister?
He likes the idea. Like, he's been talking about wanting a sibling for the last couple of years, but I think he's actually forgotten, and I haven't brought it up again with him, mostly just because I'm a little bit scared of, there's still a chance of miscarriage, right? So I don't really want to bring it up again with him until I'm a little bit further along.
Yes.
I think he's really hoping for a little sister, because anytime he talks about wanting a sibling, he talks about having a little sister. So, but we're hoping for a girl too.
Well, go and enjoy your evening.
Yeah.
Or afternoon is there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
This show is sponsored by our members who made donations. We'd like to give them a very big thank you. We have to cover the monthly costs of the radio station's software, bandwidth, phone lines and phone calls to be able to continue with the radio show. And thank you for listening. Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.